When I was in high school, I really, really liked music, math, and science. Those are things that I loved more than anything else. I was in jazz band, I was in the marching band, I was in the pep band, I was even in show choir, and I really loved all of it, every experience of it. I took physics every year that I could. Took as many physics classes as I could. I got a 4 on the AP Physics exam. Doesn't really matter because I didn't go to college. And it was really a huge, huge interest. And when I was in high school, I didn't really try very hard because I always knew that I wanted to join the military. Um, the military always appealed to me mainly for the educational benefits and the financial benefits of being in the military. Initially, I wanted to be in the Marines because uh, my interest at the time, I really wanted to go infantry. I was really patriotic and wanted to fight for my country. And I thought it seemed way more glamorous than what it actually was. Um, as from what I've heard, at least, I've heard that being infantry is not all that great, and there's much better things. And my family didn't really want me to go infantry because they said I was a smart kid and I didn't really need to be playing in the dirt and getting shot at by terrorists and stuff. And I agreed. I didn't think that was the right way for me to head. So I took the military aptitude test. It's called the ASVAB, ASVAB. I don't know what it stands for, but I took it and I scored considerably well on it, and that opened up my possibilities for things that I could do in the Navy. So I immediately started looking, and the Marines didn't really interest me. I said Navy, but I was initially gonna recruit the Marines, but they didn't really interest me. I was looking at jobs like being like a truck engineer, like working on the trucks that they send out to go in the dirt and stuff over in the Middle East. I wasn't really interested in that. The Air Force didn't really have a lot of options for jobs that I wanted to get. I didn't even take a look at the Coast Guard, and the Army was the same as the Marines. I didn't really look into that. So Navy, from a lot of people I've heard that if you're going to get a job in the military and you want something that's going to translate well into the civilian world when you get out, like a good job, um, the most technical fields are going to be in the Navy and the Air Force. So I started looking at the Navy, and I saw a few things that I liked. I really liked um, the intelligence side, like, oh, I'm going to be a super secret hacker, and I don't know, I had visions of grandeur for that too, and that was very misplaced, but it was like, something cryptological technician, that sounds really interesting. But since I had such a love for math and physics and science in general in high school, the nuclear field really excited me. So what the nuclear field is the Navy has aircraft carriers and they have submarines, and instead of powering these large ships, propulsing them with diesel or some sort of other fuel, they use nuclear reactors, and these nuclear reactors is really like the forefront of the Navy. Like they really, really are important for all of these because they allow the submarines to go way longer underwater without having to refuel or surface to charge a battery because like a diesel emits smoke, and it's no good for the people on board. And for aircraft carriers, it means they can go farther, faster, longer without having to refuel. So it was really interesting to me, and I really wanted to do it. I was like, you know, nuclear physics, that's right up my alley. It sounds really awesome, and I made this decision when I was 17 years old that is what I wanted to do, without a doubt. And I went for it. I went for it headstrong, and right after high school, pretty much, it was just a few months. It was October of 2013. I left for basic training, and I mean, basic training sucks. I mean, some people like it, but for the most part, like, there's nothing more to it. Funny things happen, really crappy things happen, and it was awful. Whatever. And after that, I fly to South Carolina. So I've been in South. Well, I was in South Carolina for a year and a half ish, and it was pretty rough, but at the same time, lots of fun. Because the Navy takes nuclear power so seriously, the nuclear power field has one of the hardest, if not the hardest, academic training that the military offers at all. Like, it is no shit, seriously challenging. And that's what I wanted in high school. I felt like I wasn't really being challenged, but I was also one of those kids that said, like, I never did any homework anyway, so I, I I was really lazy. That was also one of my reasons for joining, is because I wanted to teach myself some self-discipline. But the program is seriously challenging. And there's three phases of schooling. You have your A school, which is where you get your initial um, in rate, which is like your job. So you get your initial job training for whatever the specific task you're going to be doing. I am going to be a mechanic. So there's an A school, there's nuclear power school. A nuclear power school is where they teach you all of the theoretical physics and heat transfer stuff for how you would understand a nuclear power plant operates. Um, and then after you have the basics of your job specifically and the basics of how a nuclear power plant works, from the first two phases of training, you go on to work on an actual nuclear reactor plant prototype in either South Carolina or New York. So I really liked my time in South Carolina. In South Carolina, I went through A school and nuclear power school, and I did exceptionally well. But it wasn't just because I tried very hard. It's because I really, really loved being able to wake up every day, go to school, and get paid to go to school. And like I was learning this stuff, I was getting college credits for what I was doing. It wasn't a college, but it'll help me translate, when I get out. But I loved it. I honestly did. Every morning I woke up and I was excited to go to work. And I say that truthfully, 100%. A lot of people, they hated it because when you sign up or when you're going to the recruiting office, the the Navy needs more nuclear operators. They have really strict standards for them, and they have an attrition rate, which they lose a lot, and they I would say they struggle to find people, but it can get rough for them, as I understand it sometimes. So they'll pay the recruiters more, like nukes count as two people or something when they recruit, so they get like more emphasis, like, oh, try to get as many people into the nuclear program as possible. So recruiters will tend to uh, emphasize the new program more. Like they will. I wouldn't say they lie, but they will persuade people to go into the program, and the people might not necessarily like it. It might not be for them. So it's really hard for some people to like it. But for me, I wasn't in it for the money. I wasn't in it for anything else, but that was the job that I wanted from the get-go, from a really, really early start, is what I knew I wanted to do. So after passing A school and power school and doing pretty well, I got some downtime. I got to go to the Navy college type thing. I got tuition assistance in this building where I went to go to college. Took some college classes. I only took two. It was calculus and statistics, but I had to transfer from South Carolina to New York on the same day as my statistics final. And because of that, because of having to transfer the same day, I failed it because I couldn't take the final. So I failed statistics. I didn't get the credits for that, and I had to pay it back, and it was like $600, and it was really bad. It was kind of embarrassing. I probably would have been able to make up the time to take the test afterwards, but I was really busy. I didn't have a car, so like, the whole situation was I didn't have a car, which is my fault, like because I didn't have a driver's license, which is my fault, and I needed to move all of my instruments and stuff up to New York from South Carolina, and there was no other way to do it. So it was pretty. Uh, sorry, the screen cut off. Uh, it was pretty challenging. Um, that was interesting. I got a lot of flack for that for a long time in the Navy because I was constantly asking people for a rise. And these people that are like grown adults, like they were in college for a few years and dropped out maybe, or they just didn't join until they were like, so it was like I was like 19 years old, and there was just people that were just fed up with the fact that I didn't have a car. So when I got to New York, I got a car, and I got my driver's license, and I started being a functioning member of society. Um, but I was still making some pretty bad decisions because I was planning on moving in with this girl from back home in Indiana. Um, when I got to New York, so I ended up getting a one-bedroom apartment, and so I didn't have any roommates. She ended up breaking up with me, didn't move in with me, so I was paying a lot for rent. And the first few months that I was up there, I didn't have a car, and it was really a hassle getting to work when I lived considerably far away from where everybody else did. I didn't have a car, and I didn't have any roommates to drive me, and that made a lot of people irritated with my decisions, and it was pretty irritating. But the third phase of training, prototype, that's where we were working at like an actual nuclear reactor plant, learning the basics of our job, of how to qualify on the plant so we can stand watch and stuff. So that was the premise of it. And around that time, it was pretty rough. Like it didn't feel the same. It wasn't how it was in power school and A school where you put on the uniform, you come to work, you sit down at a desk, you study with other classmates who are all studying the same exact thing so that you can take this exam like every week. Because when it was like that and it was like strict and regimented and they said, here's what you're going to be learning, here's like this list of things that you're going to have to know, and then the next test it's like, oh, here's some of the questions of things that we told you that you were going to have to know. Because for that was easy for me. I did really well with that. For this, it was a whole bunch of, okay, here is all of the knowledge of the plant. Here's the plant, um, and you just take it one step at a time. And it was like 2,000 things that I had to study for over 6 months, and a lot of deadlines and a lot of repercussions. Really long working hours. Keep in mind, I was falling behind. I was an above average student in the first few phases, but at prototype, I was working 14 hours a day for like 5 days, and then the sixth and seventh day of work, I was working either 10 hours, or the sixth day of work, I was working 14 hours. It's kind of confusing. It was rotating shift work with like on average a 13-hour day, and I got 2 days off, so 7 days on, 2 days off, jumping around, but it was awful. And it made me seriously hate working there. Well, one of the biggest problems that I had with it was that because it's the military, people are allowed to be assholes. Not only are they allowed to, you're almost encouraged to be an asshole because assholes get things done. Okay, that's what they try to say. That's what people do, and people come into the program and they think it's just like boot camp the whole way through or something. And people just like, treat them like shit, treat them like shit, treat them like shit until they do what you want to do. And it's a whole bunch of negative reinforcement. It's a whole bunch of, if you don't do this, bad things are going to happen to you, which, fine. People always say, it's the military. Like, it's supposed to be stressful. It's supposed to be people yelling at you because it's the military. And I hear that all the time. And I understand it. I mean, I wanted to join the military for those reasons. But what I faced was people that were in positions of power that were just exercising it very, very, I don't want to say deceptively, but very like, they were just very mean, very visceral and aggressive. They were just making all the students feel like they were stupid, really, and made them feel like pieces of crap for no reason other than to just make them feel like crap. And their justification for it is basically along the lines of, oh, well, that happened to me when I was in your shoes, so why shouldn't I be able to do it to you, now in this position? And I didn't really agree with that. I had a lot of problems with the authority, which is not a good problem to have in the military. But there was a lot of people that just treated people like garbage just for being treated garbage like them when they were younger. It's like, oh, back in my day, we used to punch students. Well, like, it's That's not that's not okay. That's not very good. That's not a good thing to have, and it's not something to really want to do. You know, like, you shouldn't want to punch somebody because they're a student and you can just do it. And the same reason, like, you don't have to be a jerk to people for no reason. But I face that a lot, uh, and I was also having problems with like not seeing any of my friends and family. Like, I would get to go home and visit every once in a while, but like people's lives are just flying by. Like, I know people that are going into the third year of college this year, and I'm 20 years old. I left straight out of high school, and all of my memories are from stuff back in high school with my friends. You know, just like kicking it, being in marching band, going to marching band competitions, and when Avon High School was the talk of the town, like that was my life. Like that was like what I left behind. So like I see people, and there's people like getting pregnant or married and stuff, and a lot of people go through this, and it's crazy. It's like, but I didn't really make a lot of friends since I've been here, at least in New York, and it just gave me this sense of isolation and loneliness. Whereas like every day I would go to work and I have to work for 14 hours a day and get treated like garbage. Excuse me. Get treated like garbage from my superiors, and get treated like garbage from the people who are supposed to be like my friends, my fellow shipmates, my sailors and stuff that I'm working with, and they would just constantly be putting down and down and down, and I really, really was struggling because it wasn't necessarily the academic part of it, but I had so many things that I had to try to focus on all at once that made me really, really have to reevaluate my goals. So initially, when I got there, I wanted to, kick butt and keep doing how I was doing, but just the way things were and the way that people were treating me, I really wasn't able to. I barely managed to scrape by. I had never failed a test up until I got there, and then when I got here, I failed like three, and these were pretty big tests. Like I can't get into the specifics of it, but I failed basically my final oral examination, um, and so it made me late for graduating. So I didn't get to graduate, like walk at my graduation with other people, which wasn't really a big deal, but it also put me behind. Like I would be at home in Indiana right now, spending time with my family, and I'll see my family for like Thanksgiving, uh, if I had passed on time, but I didn't because I saw him dying. Uh, so as I'm going through all of these things, and this is before I failed my final exam, I'm just getting tormented. I guess that's a good word. I was getting tormented by these people around me, like, why aren't you doing better? You need to be doing better. You're a piece of shit. You're a shitbag. You suck. And it was constant. And it was like, I kept saying, like, the more you treat somebody like crap or make them feel like an idiot, the less likely they're going to want to do the job that they're doing. That's the quickest way to destroy morale and motivation. And I'm trying to demonstrate my knowledge of what I know of the nuclear power plant that I'm supposed to be working on. And we're supposed to be working together. But they have this ideal that if you, how would I say it, like a kind of like a crowd mentality. You know, if one person thinks that you're a piece of garbage, then everybody else is going to think that you're a piece of garbage by word of mouth. And it really doesn't help, because I didn't get a lot of help from anybody at all, just because they thought that I wasn't the person that they wanted to be around. And it's like, I'm not a horrible person, like, at all, but people just hated me that I never even talked to, just because I was Henderson. That's who I was. I was Henderson, the piece of crap, the guy that nobody wants to be around. At least that's what it felt like to me. And so because my progress was so bad and I was legitimately down in the dumps, I started seeing like a counselor for like a therapy session, because I was feeling like garbage all the time. I wasn't eating properly. Like some days I would go like 3 days in a row without eating, and then I would like overeat. Sometimes I would eat nothing but junk food. My weight started fluctuating rapidly. Constantly tired, but at the same time I could never get any sleep. Dang it. Sorry, screaming out again. was constantly tired, but at the same time, I could never get enough sleep. Laying awake in bed, like just nothing is really working. Things that I like doing, like like music and like my job. I really loved writing songs and making music and singing and stuff. And it's like my old hobbies weren't interesting me at all. Um, I was having complete lack of ability, like a lack of focus. Really, I couldn't focus on anything that I wanted to set my mind to. It would just I would be doing it, doing it, doing it, and it's like reading a book, and then something happens in my mind. I go off somewhere, and it's like I'm skipping pages. But that was like my whole life. It was like reading a book, skipping a page. Wait, where am I? What just happened? I don't understand. That was literally every day of my life, and it was terrifying because I didn't want to. I didn't know if that was like a temporary thing or what really was going on with me, and I didn't want to hurt people because like what I do is pretty dangerous. Working on a nuclear power plant, I have the potential to seriously hurt some people if I operate the wrong component at the wrong time, if I don't take the right actions, and if we get hit by casualty or a fire or something. And it would just be these times where I just have a mental block and a freeze that I'd never experienced before, and I wasn't sure what to do with it. So like, it got to the point where I made some pretty bad mistakes. I wasn't making the right decisions. That combined with my hatred I developed with my superiors put me in situations where it was not good for me. There was many times where I could have easily been kicked out of the program and just given a different job, an easier job, make me a cook or something, make me scrub walls. So many times. And it was a lot of that made me just legitimately even more depressed. Like I didn't even know what to do at that point. So my lack of focus is increasing. I'm doing worse as time goes on. One of my superiors talks to me, and I know this is going to be like a one-sided conversation, but he still wants something from me. I know he's getting ready to yell at me with everything that he's got, and everybody's just like, just focus on you, man. Just focus on doing your job, and everything's gonna be fine. Just try to do the best you can, and like doing the best that I can wasn't working, And so I go, I don't know, so I didn't know what to say. So I talked to my supervisor, and he was like, I want to know why you're such a piece of shit. You are like doing work like if you worked at McDonald's, you would get fired by this point. Just how bad of a job you're doing, like showing up late to things or whatever you were doing. You couldn't get a job at the dump with the kind of attitude you have towards this job. And I told him, I was like, look, I'm dealing with a lot of things right now, a lot of emotional stresses, things outside of work, like family and friends, that I just makes it very, very hard for me with like the condition that I'm in to make work my priority right now. And when you when you're in charge of a group of people, especially people in the military, and people in the military have almost, if I think it's twice the risk of suicide. And so one of your individuals that you're overseeing comes to you and says that the reason for their not doing well at work, I can't find the right words to say. The reasons for them not doing so well at work is because they're facing serious emotional stressors and mental stressors in their life. You really have to have the right response, and his response was not the right response. After I told him all of that, he told me that I was a cancer. That if this tumor didn't fix itself, that he was going to remove me. And there's no more. He didn't care. He said that there was people that he's seen that had way worse problems than whatever problems that I could be facing. He didn't ask me what problems I was facing. But just whatever problems you're facing, there's somebody out there that's got it worse than you. So you have no right to complain about it, and that's not a good enough excuse for you to be doing a shitty job. Pretty much what he said to me. And at that point, it was just like, there's nothing I can do. Like I've been seeing a counselor, nothing's really working, and I was in that depression limbo where it's like, you don't really want to keep on continuing living the life that you're living, but you don't really want to leave it. So it was like I never got to the point where like I wanted to commit self-harm or hurt myself or anything, but it was bad. It was bad. Like if it had gone on any longer than it might have. And that was a few weeks before my final exam, and it continued to get worse. And I was driving to work one day, and I had a complete, one of those lack of focus things, just zoning out, and going about 50 miles an hour, I rear-ended somebody who was making a left turn, and it was a pretty bad accident. My airbag deflated or inflated. Airbag went off. My car was completely totaled. Her car had pretty. It wasn't as bad as my car, but it had some intense damage to the rear, and it was bad. Like I went to the emergency room a few hours after because I was having some pretty bad pain in my joints and in my neck, and that was exactly what I was talking about. Like the lack of focus, my inabilities to pay attention to what I was doing caused me to put somebody else's life at serious risk, and it was bad. I felt awful. I was in a position that I had never been in before. I had never been in a car accident before, and I sat there and I caused one because of everything that had been, plaguing me. And it was the worst that I had felt ever. And this was 2 days before my final examination, and more and more things were unveiling, like me potentially not having insurance, and then finding out that I didn't have insurance because of a mistake I made because of more of my negligence, and it was bad. And I don't want to talk about that because I don't need to talk about that right now, but it just got worse and worse and worse. And then I did my final exam, and I failed my final exam. And it was looking at the point where, because of my track record of poor performance at work, combined with my attitude problems that I've had, combined with me failing my final exam, gave them more than enough reason to just say, just cut it, just take this kid somewhere else. And I fought for it. I sincerely believed that I had the ability, wholeheartedly believed that I had the ability to pass and make it through, but I wasn't demonstrating it. Actions speak more than words. And so they had the choice, my section being like my division, had the choice to either suggest that I continue on and do a retake of the final exam, or to suggest that I am not cut out for the program, send that up the chain of command, and get me disenrolled. And so they had those two choices, and so they decided that I should be disenrolled from the program. This is just from what I'm understanding based off of what they've told me. I don't know the full story, but that was their decision. And so that request got sent up the chain of command and was denied. So I had another shot. And at that point, I was 100% determined as much as I could be to make it out. Because I had been through 2 years worth of hard challenges. And I wasn't going to let the little things pile up and make it so that I wouldn't be able to finish this on time. That I was going to make it out. And that was it. And this was going to be the win that turned things around. So I studied, and I studied, and I studied, and I studied some more. And when the day came, I did my final board and I passed. And I was relieved. Like a huge weight had been lifted off my chest. I no longer had to deal with all these abysmal people that I worked with. I no longer had to work these awful hours. I no longer had to worry, have the anxiety of not being prepared for this test, because there's no more testing. There's no more that needs to be tested on or done, and it really made me start feeling like I was an actual normal person again. So, I mean, that's it. I was a qualified nuclear reactor mechanical operator. So, soon, I'm currently getting administratively detached from the commands, and I will go on to uh, transfer commands to go to Hawaii, go to Pearl Harbor, and I'll be going to a Virginia class submarine, which is one of the newest like fast attack submarines that the Navy has, and it should be pretty fun. I'm legitimately excited. I mean, that's awesome. It's legitimately awesome. I want to get to see my family soon, and for right now at least, I mean, aside from all the financial troubles I'm going to be in from not having car insurance, like my future is otherwise looking pretty bright, and I am legitimately excited. I'm excited to see people from back home, really catch up, really try to just take a breather and just rest easy because I think that everything's going to be all right now. Um, I have finally having some time to mourn the loss of my grandmother who passed while I was at training. I couldn't see her because of how much stuff I've been going through at work itself. I didn't really have the time or really the ability to go and visit her. She didn't really have a funeral anyways, so but it's a lot of hard work, and I'm really proud of what I've done. I'm very, very excited to see what more I can do. So to wrap it up, um, I think I'm going to continue every maybe month or so, or maybe every few weeks, with more of these. I guess they're called vlogs. I guess this is a vlog. I'll continue some more as time goes on. When I have any big important updates that I want people to know of that I can't individually message everybody or inform everybody at the same time, just so people can't really get mad if I don't tell them, because I'll just say, hey, look, I update my life on my Facebook now. So like, this is what I'm doing. So hopefully that doesn't happen. So hopefully like people aren't just like mad at me like, oh, why did you tell me? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so I'll update people again in a few weeks, hopefully. If anything interesting happens, it'll just probably be me at home transferring, unless any huge changes happen, like I get a change of orders, which would suck, but I'm prepared for that. If you have any other questions, you can send me a message. If you have my number, definitely text me. I definitely would like to hear from anybody who watches this about any questions, or just like chat or whatever. Yeah, so thanks for watching. If you watch this whole thing, I'm pretty impressed, coming up 33 minutes. And yeah, all right, well, talk to you guys later.